Hey, welcome back to the Myth Impressions channel, home of Steampunked Out, Nemesis Gear, and Knox Hollow. We're back in the Nemesis Gear leather shop where we do our Steampunked Out Nemesis Gear leather items. This is going to be take two on the video. The first one I did include the information I wanted to talk about with the 3D printer, but it ended up being extremely long because I also made an entire leather bracer and couldn't stop talking about all of the leather tips and tricks as well. So we're going to do take two on this, and I'm going to pretty much try to keep this into a little bit more of a digestible chunk. So yes, I got a 3D printer about a year ago. It's not been without its problems, but if you want to get into that, I will explain why I got a 3D printer. The first one is something that I've been thinking about for years, especially in our area. We have a lot of wildfires. But even if you don't have wildfires, I mean, there's, in a workshop, you have all kinds of different equipment. And even if you don't, just an electrical short can happen, lightning strikes, you just don't know what's going to happen. So fire being my biggest issue. But natural disaster, accident, things happen to your shop. And in my shop, when I do all the leather work, most of my patterns are done on mat board. And these work great. Usually what I'll do is I'll come up with a pattern. I kind of do a rough design in some scrap leather that I'm not going to use, or maybe I'll do partials or something. And then once I get everything cut out and adjusted to where I want it, I'll do more strict measurements and get the final design on the mat board so that I can trace this out and get all my holes spaced and everything. And be able to do my patterns pretty quickly. Downside of that, obviously, is if there is a fire or something like that, not only is my shop down, even with insurance, paying for tools and stuff, if I lose my patterns, that's it. I mean, I'm back to square one. I have to basically redesign everything. Hopefully I can, reverse engineer if I have some of the product, but it's very, very time consuming. So I started thinking about ways that I could, get back, going faster if something drastic happens. And I thought about, I thought about a couple things. A laser cutter would be nice, and you could do this with a laser cutter. But the other thing that I really wanted to do, we'll get to the second part, was using that 3D printer for more than just the patterns, but for other things, and I'll get to that in a second. But as you can see, what I've started doing is I'll take these mat board designs, and I lay them out on, I've just got you probably can't see it, it's just a big cutting mat, like a Fiskars cutting mat with a 1-inch grid on it. I'll lay the pattern down on that. I'll take photos once I have the final photos and stuff, and I'll bring it into the computer, and then I'll just use a vector program to trace around, all the edges and digitize that pattern. And it's great because it really lets me refine all of my curves and stuff. I can do mirror images, so even if you're doing stuff by hand, sometimes when you're cutting out that mat board, it's not perfect. But this really allows me to perfect that pattern and make sure everything is as close to exactly I want it. All my hole spacings are perfectly even and stuff. And then once I have that digitized, I can bring that into a 3D printer, and I'm just printing off. These are 3mm thick pieces of PLA, and the bed on my printer, it's not huge. I got a Prusa Mark III S Plus. It's pretty decent. It's worked well for me over the years. All 3D printers are going to have the problems, but I got this one because it's supposed to be a workhorse. And I do suggest, if you decide to get a 3D printer, I got this one as a kit, put it together myself. It was a little bit cheaper, but the plus side of that is when you put it together, yeah, it's going to take you a day or two to get through it. It's a lot to do, but you kind of learn how everything works, so that when things go down, you can pull it apart and diagnose your problem, with the help of the internet, and get the repair parts and put those in yourself. And it's going to save you a lot of time and trouble in the long run as to trying to find somebody else who can work on them. But anyways, my bed size is it's only so big, so some of my larger patterns, something like this, there's no way that would fit on there. So what you can do is you can cut these up. This is a larger one. It wouldn't quite fit on there. side to side this way or diagonally. So I just went ahead and cut it into 4 pieces. I don't know if you can see the seams on here. And I just put, little triangular notches on there so I can make sure everything was aligned and even and stuff. You may have to play with this a little bit with your printer to get it to do what you want, but I got these to go together really nicely. I just glued them together, got them smooth, and that means that all of my tracing and everything is going to be as perfect as possible to start with, so you're going to see fewer variations in the final product. And the best part about this is now this is digitized. I can back up these digital files pretty much anywhere I want, and worst case scenario, once the insurance pays out on a fire or something, I can buy what tools I need to get started again, and then just simply start, printing my patterns back off. I'll have all my patterns, and it's time consuming to do, and it is going to take me some time to get everything digitized. It's something I'm in the process of doing. But as you can see so far, I've got several patterns done, and most of the stuff I'll be able to do on that printer. Even in sections and, for the larger items. And I think in the long run, that's going to be really helpful. And if nothing else, it's just kind of an assurance. So that's something to think about if you're a maker. But I wanted to get into, there's other things that I wanted to do with this, things that you can do with the printer, with a 3D printer, besides just doing patterns. And the reason that I decided to go this route, it's infinitely more useful in leather work than what you might think. So let me, I've actually got a couple things to make. So I'm going to go ahead and cut out a couple of these. And once I have those ready, I'll take you to the other side of the shop and show you the other thing that I like to do with the 3D printer. All right, now that I've got these cut out, we're ready to go to the next step. I did want to take a second though and ask if you got just a second to slide down and hit that thumbs up button. That really helps out a lot. Also, if you want to see some more videos, we're doing, always do leatherworking, lots of woodworking, making wands in the wood shop, maybe some metalworking sometimes, even some stoneworking. Just making all kinds of stuff, just in the geeky realm of things. So if you enjoy seeing those and you want to see some more of them, then you can always support the channel by sliding down to the subscribe button right down there, and make sure you ring that bell, and that will allow you to get a notification anytime we post more videos. If you're feeling really generous, you can always join the channels and join our subscribers, supporters, and make a small donation monthly, and that'll help to promote the channel, and we'll be getting some better video equipment and be making more interesting and fun projects in the future as well with your support. So thanks very much, and let's get over to the next section of this, and I'll show you some other cool things you can do with a 3D printer. Okay, so we're in the other side of my shop. This is the metal shop slash mechanic shop. Sometimes I work on my cars, or I'm doing metalworking stuff in here. It's not the most organized, but this is where my press is. So the other thing that I've been using a 3D printer for, and the main thing that I bought it for, was stamping. And if you've never tried to get custom stamps made, now you can go to Tandy or some other manufacturers, and you can get these like pre-made, metal stamps like this, and they just have a little handle that goes on them. The downside of that, obviously, is that everybody else that goes to the same store, they'll have the same designs, and they're all usually just about a 1 inch by 1 inch or 1 1/4 inch. Most of them are not very big. You can get custom ones done. This one I had made. It's a small one, but I've had larger ones made, up to about yay big. I think they made this out of zinc, probably. It's just cast zinc, and then it comes in a big sheet, and you just cut them apart. And this, they work really well. You have to have a flat press to put them in. If you have a press, you can get larger sizes. But let me tell you something: having custom stamps made is expensive. If you haven't priced it, check it out. Even little small ones like this can be over $100. I think that you can have like some maker stamps and stuff that they'll do some really simple ones out of like it might be Delrin or something along those lines. That it's just a polymer of some kind, and they're very durable. The metal ones, of course, will last for years and years. I don't know what the longevity is on the Delrin ones. They were also really expensive to have custom made. So, but I'm sure they have a good longevity with them. But my problem is, you know, when you're doing design work, you don't know what is going to be popular. So you may come up with a design that you like, you know, or something that works for a specific product or something like that. But then, you know, you pay several $100s to get a big one made, and then that doesn't sell. You don't know, and then you're stuck with it. So being able to test it out at the very least, I thought, you know, I started looking into 3D printers, and I thought, man, with leather, you can tool a design in. It doesn't have to be metal. You know, I've used all kinds of stuff to put patterns in, even like really coarse sandpaper to put a texture in there. You can accidentally do it with your thumb. So tooling is really easy in there if you're careful with it. I wonder if you can 3D print stamps. And I actually looked online and saw some people making forms and stamps and stuff out of 3D printed material, and then using them to shape like thin sheets of aluminum and stuff like that. And I thought, man, if they can do that, I got to try this. So what I did was, this is the same as the pattern that we just did, with an outer edge on it, and I've made a design that looks like dragon scales. So it's just like a 1 inch or a 1 millimeter thick line. It just comes up about a millimeter deep, and it's about a millimeter wide. And I made a whole flat plate of that I can do. And I've done this with larger pieces too, and you put it together the same way. So like this is a full brace design, and you can see I've got some kind of glue lines in here. You have to be really careful and make sure that you get it perfectly aligned when you do it with pieces like this. It takes a little bit of time. My thought was, if this works, then, you know, who cares if, you know, if it doesn't sell and it's not a big product, then, you know, I'm only out the time it took me to design it plus the cost of materials. And if you haven't used a 3D printer, you know, you're only using a partial roll, you know, something like this maybe costs $1. You know, 50 cents, $1 worth of material. You know, yeah, you're out a lot of upfront costs with the printer, but, you know, overall, by, you know, other than time, you're not out just a whole bunch of money for this. And the best part is, if this breaks, you know, if you only get a dozen prints out of it and it breaks, you just print another one. You have your own pattern. So you have an endless supply of them, and you can go back in and tweak it if you think that it can be approved or something, and keep the same design. So you have full control over your designs and an unlimited supply of new stamps that you can make, you know, if they break or get lost or something like that. So this is what I came up with. So for demonstration purpose, I'll show you real quick how I've got this set up to work. And I've just got, this is an Arbor Press. I think it's a cheap Harbor Freight or something along those lines. Just got a bottle jack in it. And so what I'll do is I'll take the leather, just like you're going to stamp it. So I'll go ahead and get it wet here. And I'll pre-saturate both of these. And I don't want this absolutely soaking wet. I'm not even spraying the back side of this. The stamp's going to go in the front. So now that this one's had time to soak that in, hit it again real quick. And so this is nice and damp on the front side. Sometimes people use sponges for this. So this is ready to take a stamp. So all I'm going to do is put that in my pattern piece here. The thing is, when you're cutting these out, you have to be really precise on your cuts. You don't want to cut it too big. So, and I've left a little bit of leeway on the outside, but I can get this nice and centered in here. Make sure that all my corners and stuff are down inside there. This outer lip comes up a little bit higher than the stamp design, so that gives me a little bit of a lip to push against. And I'm just going to put that in the press. Right now I'm using two pieces of 3/4 inch plywood. I'm working on getting a metal press back for this, because the plywood, when you're only pushing it with this single post here, it does kind of warp a little bit. So I have to move the pattern around a couple of times to get it going. I'm just using a piece of scrap metal for now. It works. So, but I'll show you how that works. So I'll just move this to the other side. Now, if you're fortunate enough to have like a big clicker press, you know, either the manual or like the big hydraulic ones with the cookie cutters that cut leather out, the same thing will work on there. You might just want to not put as much pressure on it. As you can see, I put quite a bit of pressure on here. This is a 12-ton jack. I didn't just completely like slam it down. But, you know, like I said, for the leather, it really does not take a lot of pressure. And as you can see here from the design, that really went in. It's a nice clean line. Everything is lined up nicely. And once this dries, I'll be able to dye this, antique it, and really bring that pattern and texture out on this. So this works really well. And I've been really happy with it. And to be honest, I've made at least a couple of dozen on this one stamp, and it shows no sign of degrading. So thought I would share that with you. You know, there's a lot of other, I keep finding more things that you can do with a 3D printer, but for leather work, doing the patterns and doing, you know, this one's a simple texture, but you can get down, your lines can get down to, I would say, about any wider than 1 millimeter, and you start, you know, it gets pretty flimsy. So you don't want your design to be more than about 1 millimeter tall and 1 millimeter wide on your lines. So it may not be able to get as detailed as some of the metal prints and the Delrin prints. But honestly, you know, unless you're doing really small detailed work, this method really works well. And depending on the type of printer and stuff you get, you may be able to get a better resolution than what I'm getting. But I found about 1 millimeter thick and about 1 millimeter high, maybe 1.5 millimeters high on the depth of the stamp itself. Seems to work really well. So anyways, I hope this helps out. Like I say, don't forget to support the channel if you can. Thumbs up, subscribe, blah, blah, blah. And we'll get with you. I've got some more videos coming up soon, but I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll try to get some pictures of this once I get it finished and the dye and stuff, so you can kind of see how that looks on the finished product. Here's our final photos of this that I took in the photo studio. As you can see, the antiquing that I did on this that went down and darkened the stamp lines and stuff really made that pop. So I was really happy with how this 3D printer worked. I hope that you enjoyed seeing how the process goes and gave you some ideas. If you have any questions or anything, make sure you just leave it down in the comments. I know I talked a lot in this, and I probably skated over some important details as well. So if you have any questions about this, or if you have some things that you want to see in the future, make sure to leave me a comment. Anyways, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you all in the next video.